Hey everybody, welcome to Photo Challenge Week 2. Week 1 was amazing. Thank you for all your hard work. In fact, you're going to see some of the photos you took for Week 1 showing up in this presentation. That's how dang good your photos were. So this presentation will be a little bit short. I'll try to go fast, but it's worth the time to take to learn how to do your next photo well. The next theme is connection. It's how are you and others staying connected, either with other people or their passions and personality in this time of distance and distance learning. Let's figure out how to do it. The other thing we're going to be looking at, last week we looked at focal point and rule of thirds. This week we're looking at the idea of balance. Just like last week, you're going to take a photo and write a brief reflection. It's going to be due Thursday night again, and the instructions are going to be on Google Classroom. The quote to inspire you is, next to love, balance is the most important thing. So love is what's going to be in your photos for some of you. It's either connection with other people that matter to you or connection with your passions and things that keep you centered, and the idea of balance. So next to love, balance is the most important thing. So what can connection mean? I've talked about it already. It's people and things and hobbies and ideas. It's also visual. So think about what connection means for you or the people around you, because a lot of you have mentioned that the world has changed and words have different meanings now than they used to. Balance in a photograph is two elements juxtaposed within a frame so that they're of equal visual weight. And there's a few ways you could do it. So let's try to figure out how you can create balance in your photography. The first is symmetry. That's formal balance. It's an image that has equal weight left and right, or top and bottom. So each half is nearly a mirrored image, and that's a symmetrical picture. So that egg, symmetry. This is not a symmetrical picture. There are buffalo in it, and they're everywhere, and there's kind of a focal point, but there's no balance. There's not a top-bottom balance, and there's not a left-right balance. You know, there's more buffalo on the left than the right, and they kind of take away from the other part of the photo. It is not balanced. However, this photo is almost creepily balanced. I took this one last year. We've got these symmetrical bison looking left and right, two to the left, two to the right, two standing, two laying down, but a big and a little on either side. This is a balanced photograph. This one taken by Colin last week shows symmetrical balance. Two chairs, one chair split into even thirds right here, and the apples are centered, so on either side it's balanced. Nice job, Colin, to show balance. The other kind of balance is informal balance, and that's harder to achieve because it takes more thought in the way that you compose a picture, and you're using different things to balance each other out. You know, if you go back to this one, it's similar things. You don't have halfway apples, halfway oranges because we're doing symmetrical, but using different things can be a little bit different. So in this one, you've got the kid, my son, on the left bottom, and Mount Rushmore, similar size on the top right. None of them really take the other one away from the photo, like focus away from the other one. But if you removed one of them, they become not as good photographs. So having a long distance shot of Mount Rushmore doesn't mean anything. It's having my son, but having my son without Mount Rushmore, it's just a picture of a kid. So there are two things that are dissimilar, but they balance each other because they're both needed. So here's what you can do. If one item of my photo were removed, would it feel incomplete or unbalanced? Do people need to see both parts of my photo for it to make sense? And does the focal point bring attention to the aspect of the photo that balances it out? So do you have them interplaying with each other? Right here, this is close to balanced, but this tree really wrecks the photo. And then there's way too much empty space on the right side. There's a nice interplay between textures, rough and smooth, and this reflection and the haze. Like it's almost there. It's close, but it's imbalanced because I bring in a third element, and it puts all the weight on the left side, so it becomes unbalanced. This is relational balance. You've got a foreground and a background. You've got dark and light. You've got the idea for the sculpture and the sculpture as it's taking shape. So this was a photo that I took to try to show balance. This is unbalanced. So it's the same place. There's the same structure in the background, but because of the way like the foreground doesn't lead me to the background is down here. And then there's like this happening here that's kind of distracting. This was attempting to create balance, but there's no balance here. This is a much better balance by focusing on the background that matters. I get the foreground to bring me into the background, and you can see that they're connected. They need each other to work. And then again, we've got imbalance. The foreground is not really adding to anything. You can't tell that this is the same thing as this. It's just a hand, but you can't see the hand taking shape here. So it's unbalanced. Again, here's balance because you can see that it's the same thing. You need them to make sense of each other. That's why that's balanced. I hope that's making sense to you. Here's a balanced photo. A kid or a person and some sort of sea creature are not the same, and this is definitely two different things that need each other for the photo to make sense. These are examples of balanced and unbalanced depending on how you stand. This is balanced. You've got one thing on the third, the other thing on the other third, and they're equally spaced and weighted, even though this is horizontal, this is vertical. But these two, you have too much on the right weight, too much on the left weight. This is balanced. If they were on a teeter-totter, the mass is the same on either side. So you've got a balanced photograph here. Rule of thirds should still come into play on this photo if you're doing it right. So continue to use the rule of thirds because it lets you see where you can place items to give them balance. So you set your camera up to look like that, or imagine this when you're taking your photos. We can see it here. Here's a photo from Abby from last week. Rule of thirds really works here. So you can even put the grid on it and you've got one subject on the right, one subject on the left. If she wasn't looking at a computer, the photo wouldn't really make sense. But if the computer didn't have an audience, then it would just be a photo of a computer. So you need both to make sense, which is why this is a balanced photo. Here's one by Marissa, and check out the balance on this one. So you put that grid, you've got the purse, the old essential, and the gloves, the new essential, and it's right in the middle right here. We've got the hand sanitizer. So the hand sanitizer brings that fulcrum, and you've got balance on either side of it. It's a really good photo. Nice job. So here's the ways you can get balance in your photos. You can balance light and dark. You can balance a small area of white with a large area of black. You can use colors to balance. A small area of really popping color can balance a big area of neutral color because the bright's going to have more weight. So you think about it that way too. And then you can use textures. Small area with really interesting texture can balance a big area with no texture or smooth texture. So here's some ways you could do it. I went and recreated this photo. So you've got smooth out here, rough right here. You've got the reflection kind of balancing the reality. So you can have those two things. Rough texture, you want a little bit of rough texture to balance a lot of smooth. Here's one by Autumn that's balanced with color. You've got the orange popping and balancing out a really consistent color palette in the background. You've got the connection and balance with the blue here, and the orange really pops and creates balance. Here's one by Barrett where you can see a little bit of red in the photo balances out a lot of dull colors in the photo. And as an additional thing, look how well he put that rule of thirds into play right here. It is directly on that line. Nice work, Barrett. I can tell you had that turned on your camera. Here's Claudia. This is a beautiful thing with light and dark. Literally, you've got the light going on to the photograph. It's right in the middle, balanced by windows with nothing to look at on either side. So these are not focal points. This is obviously the focal point, but the windows provide balance on either side. Really nice job on this photo. Great job with the mood and the lighting. So your challenge this week is to figure out how to tell the story of connection in the time of distance learning. You can take liberties with this. You can go artistic. You could go journalistic. But I want to see the idea of connection, and I want you to play with the principle of balance. Thursday night is when you should have it in. Ask me if you have questions. Last week, a lot of people sent me photos, and they sent me 2 or 3 photos and said, what's your favorite? And I would give you advice if you want advice. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to seeing your photos this week, and I hope you found this presentation useful. Go out there and take some pictures. I'll see you on Thursday.